What's up, guys? Welcome to Arts and Crafts with Lawson, Lindsey. So, today we are doing something a little different. We are making our own lure, kind of a do-it-yourself homemade lure challenge. Now, I am in no ways even good at making lures, but I do have a lot of equipment and the tools required to make it. Over here, this whole entire jug, this thing right here, is liquid soft plastic. So what you see when you have like a soft plastic lure, like a shrimp or a swim bait or whatever, this is originally what this is. It's just a clear soft plastic, and that when you melt it in the microwave and mix it, it activates, you pour it in a mold, it heats up, and that is where your lure comes from. So we're gonna do a little DIY home video of making a lure, and at the end of it we are gonna go try to catch some fish on it, and we're just gonna do the breakdown and show you how I'm gonna do everything. Super simple. A lot of this stuff you can probably get at home or easily order online, accessible to all of you, and you can make some really cool stuff. So we're gonna get at it. As you see today, we're in a very professional studio, and I totally didn't hang a bed sheet on my wall with duct tape.
Good one.
I have drawn a little bit of a diagram, or just a rough model of what I want this lure we're making to look like, and we're calling it the Big Eye Boy because it's just a giant bait fish that's going to have a humongous eye on it and a little bit of a paddle tail. I want to make something that's kind of almost a mix between a fluke and a paddle tail bait, and that's what we're going for today. First thing is first, we got some clay here. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to mold our master out of clay. Now you could carve this with wood if you wanted to, if you have that kind of skill or patience, but we're going to use clay, and then we're going to bake in the oven, and it'll make it hard so we can further on and use it to make a mold here. So we're going to get working with this clay and make our little bait fish. Side note, pretty cool. This right here that's hanging off on this knife, this is melted down soft plastic. So this is what it looks like, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just melt down a bunch of soft plastics. Oh boy, that is slimy. I'll melt down a bunch of soft plastics and just have them pre-made to use, and so when I'm ready to use one, it's just like I'll slice some of it off and boom, there you go, melt it down, and I got some for lures. Thank you, assistant. So we're going for a little bait fish presentation here. So we're gonna work the clay and try to make just kind of like a little mullet body, and it's gonna have a curly tail hanging off the back, and it's gonna have a hollow cavity like most hollow body swim baits do. Alright, we have a little bit of a cylindrical bait fish profile right here, and now we're going to start working on the tail and just really start flattening and thinning out this back part to make it so you'll have a lot more action. The thinner the tail, the more action it's going to have, but then you got to be worried about that it won't just rip off when you're throwing it. So we're going to tweak this a little bit and try to get it just right. So what I'm going to do here is I have the tail very thin now, and I'm going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to press it down and kind of make it flattened out, and that will help give it that little paddle tail, ribbon tail action that we want here. Alright, so right there, that is our rough look of the bait. Got a little bit of like a triangle diamond tail, and I'm hoping that will just grab the water. And I just want it to be almost a really subtle flutter behind the bait, where it's almost like here's a spook style bait, and then here's a little tail fluttering behind it, and it might look like a bait fish fleeing right across the top here. So the next step that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut the stomach out of it basically to make a cavity where a wide gap hook will slide right through, like how you'd rig your big EZs or your whatever. So I'm going to take my little pocket knife here. I mean, they make clay tools and I have them laying around. I just don't know where they are at the moment. It's easy enough to use a pocket knife. We're going to carve out that little cavity right here in our bait. Something to keep in mind that you need to think about with the presentation is the type of mold that we're going to be making is just an open face mold. So there's only one pore and one side to it. So you need to think about how you want to orientate your bait, because basically one side of your bait is going to be completely flat, and then the other side is going to have all the details into it. So you need to think about how you want your bait to be facing when you carve this cavity. What's really cool about all of this is that this can be a lot of different things, because one, maybe you have kids and you want to get them into fishing. Maybe you have, I don't know, like a daughter who likes to do arts and crafts, and your dad trying to get them into fishing. This would be a great way to do it. Or maybe you're an adult man with no kids like myself, and sometimes there's not the lure that you want to throw on the market, or you just want to be creative and make things exactly how you want them, or just take your hand at designing lures, because you know no one really knows what you want and what you need to fish for like you do. And so this can be a really cool way to create exactly what you need to fish for and what you need to throw at these fish. And so it can be a really fun thing to do. And like today, it's terrible weather outside. It's been raining and pouring all morning, so I was like, you know what, let's just do something inside where we can create a lure and it'll be really fun. And I haven't done this in probably a year or so, and I forgot how much fun it really is to just sit here and be creative and bring a whole entire element into fishing that probably not a lot of people do. Alright, pretty much the last step before we're going to throw bad boy in the oven is we're going to make some eyes, and I'm just making them out of this purpley pink clay for the sake of making it stand out and look different. It's not going to make a difference except for the video. It'll be easier for you to see the eyes. Bam, got our eyeballs right there. Nothing super sophisticated, and like I said, this won't make a difference that they're different color or anything like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually just kind of paint and add on eyes with a paint marker, Sharpie, or something like that. You know, we could do indents into the bait and then add hard plastic eyes with super glue, but I'm not overly concerned about that. This is pretty simple. I'm just trying to keep things simple as possible. So here's our big boy right there. What did I call this thing? A big eye boy. That's him right there. We're gonna go pop him in the oven for a little bit and let him harden up. Our first go rod didn't work out quite how I planned it. Yeah, so you might want to make sure to buy oven baked clay. I didn't realize the clay I was using wasn't oven baked. I've always used it before, and that's what you need to do. So we're going to recraft our big-eyed boy right quick with some actually usable oven baked clay. You can use non-oven baked clay and let it dry, but it's just going to take like a few days to let it dry out if it does dry. Or you can cast it, but you need to use something more like a silicone mold and not a putty mold like we're going to use. So we're going to make our oven baked clay big-eyed boy. Alright, we just popped our big-eyed boy out of the oven right here. So something I like to do, it's not completely necessary, but it'll definitely help it look a little better and not so like ruffled and rumply when you cast your mold, is I just have sandpaper right here. I'm just going to kind of sand it down a little bit and kind of try to sand away uneven spots from where my fingers were pressing and molding the clay when it was soft. So I'm just going to kind of sand it down a little bit for a moment and get a little more shapely, and then we're going to cast our mold, and we are really starting to get to the fun part, which is when you get to start melting your soft plastics and designing the color scheme of your bait, which like that's the fun part, when you really get to be creative and bring what you've been working on to life. What we have right here is molding putty. It's very similar to plumber's putty. Same idea, have two parts you combine together, and then after it's been combined together in like 10 minutes, it sets and forms a rubber mold, and that is what we're doing. So we're just gonna pull out two equal parts of each side of the mold. Alright, we're gonna try our best to pull out two equal parts of the mold, get one side, and luckily it doesn't form until you start combining them, and even so it still takes like a few minutes, so you have a little bit of time to reshape it. I don't understand the chemical compounds that go behind whatever makes these things bond together. That looks good enough to me. So we're just gonna start forming these together. Make sure your master, so this bad boy right here, is on a flat surface because you want it to be flat. We're gonna roll it out, kind of pancake it, and press it down around our clay master, and really make sure you press everything down because you want it to take form. I'm even going to use this little brush here and press it down to the crevices of this cavity that I made in it for the hook keeper. Make sure you work it around and get all your bases covered because you want it to take on the detail of your clay master. Probably not my my best work, but we'll see how that turns out. We're just going to leave this for about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. It hardens pretty quickly, and then we'll be getting into the good stuff of pouring our soft plastics and really finally making our lure. Alrighty, we have let our mold kind of cook up here and harden, so we're going to cut it off. Not really cut it off, just kind of slowly peel it off here, and we'll see how our mold turned out. And there's the money shot. Alright, there's our boy sitting in his little hole right here. Our big-eyed boy. Now the work is really done. It's time to actually get to the fun part of pouring all these soft plastics and getting to paint this thing and making a bunch of different crazy colors. And then we are gonna go out and try to catch some fish on this thing. Now using a rubber putty mold like this is like the most basic way you can do this. It's gonna capture like the least amount of detail. It'll be rough. Or if you use a silicone poured mold, which I have some of them, but we're just doing this for this video because it's much easier, less complex. Silicone mold catches like all details. This is great just for like a rough shape or a rough pattern. And so now you can see our mold in here, and we are gonna maybe trim it up a little bit. I might get some scissors and reach in there and cut some of the excess stuff out of there. How you can see there's kind of maybe some excess like flaps of rubber hanging around, and that'll tighten it up and not make our bait look so janky when we pour it out. It's time to start pouring here in just a moment. All right here we have our jug of soft plastic. So I'm gonna kind of shake it up a little bit because I haven't used it in a while. Get it moving. And we're gonna dump it into our measuring cup here. And what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna go blast it in the microwave really quick. But first, we're gonna pour some in. Oh yeah, there's the good stuff. Pour a little bit in, probably don't need a ton. And then give it a little bit of swirl around with the old popsicle stick. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna microwave it and just kind of watch it. There's not really a certain amount of time, but you want the liquid in here, see how it's very white, kind of looks like milk? You want it to turn clear, and it'll be kind of clear and have a little bit of bubbles in it, and you can keep stirring it, and you'll get all the air out, and you just want it to be a clear liquid, and then that's what you're gonna be pouring. All right, boom, check this out. We have our soft plastic here all mixed up, a little foamy on the top. Side note, you probably wanna wear like a ventilation mask or do this somewhere well ventilated when you do this, because you are essentially using hot and molten plastic, and there's a lot of fumes that come up and it smells terrible. And I'm sure it's really good for you. It's not. Oh, let me move that out of the way. We have our mold, have our soft plastic. What I'm gonna do really quick is just add a little bit of color to it. Now this is dust. It's actually soft plastic paint. That's like a dust form, and you can add it before just straight into the plastic like this. And so I'm gonna put a good amount of it in and mix it in. And you can also paint it on. It's activated by heat, so it's really, really cool. And a lot of this stuff I ordered off this place called Alumisol, I believe it's what it's called. They're not a sponsor or anything, but they have all this stuff if you need it. So we're gonna mix this up and kind of get a almost like a clear green bait fish presentation, which will be great for bass fishing, which is what I think we'll probably try to do later. And maybe we'll go throw out some snook or something. But it's really cool, as you can already see right there, just putting in a little pinch of that green dust and mixing it into this clear plastic has made a completely like watermelon colored green solution. And what's awesome is this dust, I have red, I have a ton of different colors. I can dust it onto everything else and it will be really cool, and we can make so many different color combinations. All right, we're gonna go for the pour right now. We're just gonna try to do a slow, even pour because that'll eliminate air pockets. And we're just gonna fill this mold up and come around, put a little bit in the tail. And if you overfill it, it's not the end of the world. And sometimes I like to overfill it because you can just chop some off with scissors and trim it up. Cool down, it's probably taking about, I don't know, close to 5 to 10 minutes, and it's still pretty soft, but we're gonna pull it out anyways here. Just gonna be really gentle and pull it out just by the tail and slowly work it out of this mold here. Just nice and slow. Pop. And there's our boy. There's our big boy right there laying down. And so what we're gonna do, you can see there's a little excess hanging off him for my first pour being a little rough. So we'll trim him up a little bit. We might color him up a little bit with some of the soft plastic paint. And we're gonna be in business with a good looking lure. All right, something pretty cool you can do too with this little soft plastic paint that I have here is we'll put it on the brush here, and we're gonna paint his eyes. And how we are gonna activate it and bond it to the soft plastic is actually just using a little lighter right here, and the lighter, the heat will activate the soft plastic paint and basically burn it onto the soft plastic. We're gonna dust a red eye, so we're just gonna hold them and just kind of run the flame over the eye, not hold direct contact for too long. And it's really cool because you can use this to paint designs and all different types of stuff. After pouring a handful of baits, kind of went through a little bit of test and development. You see, this is the first initial bait, and you'll see how soft it came out, and it was very, very flimsy, and like, I don't even know how to describe it. And you can see this is the first one, how just like, it's almost like gelatin here, and then this is the last one we poured right here, and you can see how much more of a solid bait this is and how much more it really looks like. If you could feel it, a soft plastic, this literally feels like a gummy worm or like a gummy bear in your hand right here. It's very soft. But we have a few baits, and these ones came out really well. The plastic is like that perfect consistency of rigidity and softness, and so the action on these should be pretty good. So the game plan is now, because kind of short on time and the weather's been a little bad lately the past few days, we're going to take these out to the pond and test them out and see if we can maybe catch a few bass on them. Eventually, if you guys want to see it, I can bring them out to the salt water, maybe in another video, and try to catch them, but we're going to take these out and hit these on some bass. Let's get after it. All right, we've made it out to the pond here. Got my little bait caster just with 14-pound mono, wide gap hook, and we got the big-eyed boy rigged up on here. It actually came out a lot bigger than I thought it would, where it's come out to be like a 10-inch, probably like an 8-inch bait right there. But we'll see if it works. Bass are not shy about eating really big presentations. But if you can see, our little buddy Ziggy is still absolutely in the pond and coming up to say hi to us. So we'll have to deal with him and make sure he doesn't eat any of these bad boys right here. So the action on this thing, it's not bad, but it's not great either. The softer one actually has much better action, which isn't very surprising. And what I wanted it to do was kind of run on the surface, and it does that pretty well. And it's just kind of kicked right on the surface. Almost looks like a snake or maybe a bait fish being chased, and its tail just flutters a little bit right on the surface. I think we make enough casts, we'll probably catch a bass on it. We got an alligator who's wanting to eat it though. So I'm sitting here trying to throw this lure, and we have a second alligator who seemed to have found his way into the pond that I've never seen before. I guess they're just coming from a nearby canal or pond or something, but we have just a bunch of little gators crawling around this place now. Like, that is a shrimp. Like, he's half the size of the other one, Ziggy. We're gonna name this one Scrappy. Oh man, what a strange. Look at this little thing. You are angry, dude. You're pissed. That's what I mean, like, little alligators are so just like they just don't know anything. He bit the log instead. You're a dummy. Alright, unfortunately the little do-it-yourself lure challenge didn't work out as well as I wanted. I basically ran out of time before I could even get to fish with it a ton. I got to throw it around for maybe 10 minutes, and then I had to go home and pack for a road trip that I'm on right now with a good old buddy sitting here driving the car. You guys have to look forward to that. It's going to be very epic over a few days, and we're going to be road tripping through basically the middle of the U.S. and untouched areas. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It was a little different, I know, but I think in the future that could be really fun to incorporate it. And I know what was wrong with the bait, why it didn't work exactly as well as I wanted to. The tail needed to be a little more flattened out. It was too thick, so the action wasn't quite there perfectly. But I think it could be a fun thing to do in the future to do more videos like that and designing cool lures. If you guys enjoy it, let me know. But I appreciate you. Until next time, see ya.